What's going on, my dear friends? Today in this video, let's learn and master the Angular framework's latest version. So let's get started. So guys, in the previous lecture, we learned how to deal with Angular if directive only using Boolean true or false values. But guys, for this we can use string or number values as well. So in this lecture, let's look at how to use NGF directive with number values. So first look at the NGF directive, and in the next lectures, we'll look at the new if syntax approach. So let's get started. So guys, let's look at this with an example. So for this, I want to show a message when the user exceeds 3 login attempts. So we'll count the login attempts with a login button. So let's do this. For this, first thing first, let's create a button. So go to the app component HTML file and create button tags. The button text will be login. So next what I want to do is I want to count the login attempts when user clicks this button. So how do we do that? So very simple. For this we can use the click binding approach. So inside this button starting tag, add a click event binding. So how do we add that? We learned about this in the previous lectures. So how do you do this? Very simple. For event bindings, we use brackets, right? So open and close simple brackets. Inside this, pass the event, which is click. Now, when this click event occur, we'll call a method something count login attempts. So after this, don't forget to add the parentheses. So guys, as you guys can see here, we are getting this compile error. Why is that? Can you guys tell me? Yes, of course. So guys, we are calling this method from here, but there is no method declared inside the app component TS file. So in order to fix this, we have to create this method. So go to the app component TS file and create this method. The method name is count login attempt. So carefully follow these simple capital letters. So after this, add the parentheses and the method scope. So we successfully created the method. Next, what I want to do is I want to store the login count inside of a variable. So when user click the login button. So let's do this. For this, first thing first, we need a variable. So create a variable. The variable name is something login count. Set this type as number. So after this, set a default value to this 0. Next, what I want to do is I want to increment this login count by 1 when user press the login button. So how do we do that? Very simple. So inside the count login method, let's increment this variable value by 1. So for this we can use the increment operator, which is 2 plus symbols. So inside this, the variable this dot login count, after this plus plus. So that's it. So guys, once again, simply in this increment operator will increase this login count value by 1. So by default, this value is set to 0. So when user press the login button at the initial stage, this will increase the default value by 1. In order to see this clearly, we'll add a log down here. So after this, add a console log and pass this variable inside this log parentheses. That's it. So save this all and go to the browser. Now click on this login button. Inside the browser console, we can see number 1. So if I press this login button again, we can see 2 and so on. So this method is working as we expected. Alright, so guys, next let's work on the conditional logic. Guys, I want to show a message when user exceed 3 attempts of clicking this login button. So how do we do that? For this, we'll simply use the NGF directive. So first thing first, let's create the message. For this, let's use an h4 tags. The message will be exceeded 3 login attempts. Try again later. That's it. So now I want to show this message when user exceed 3 clicks of this login button. So for this, add the NGF directive inside this h4 opening tags, asterisk symbol, and the directive NGF. So after this, add the condition, which is we have store this login count inside of this login count variable. So add that here, login count, and add the greater than symbol. After this, add number 3. So with this, we are telling to this condition, if this login count variable value is greater than 3, show this message. That's it. So save this all and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, now we are not getting the warning message. So click the login button 3 times. After I click 3 times, this error message appeared inside the browser. Awesome, right? So guys, once again with this condition, we are telling to check whether this login count variable value is greater than 3 or not. If this greater than 3, this greater than operator will return true. So in that case, this message h4 tags will render inside the browser. So this is how this error message loaded inside the browser. So hope you guys got the idea. So guys, before we move on to the next lecture, let's see another example. Now I want to hide this button when the user attempts 3 times to log in. So how do we do that? For this also we can use the same approach. So add NGF directive to this button opening tag. The condition this time, first add the login count variable and check whether this login count is less than number 3. So this time I want to display this button when this login count value is less than number 3, right? So if this login count value is less than 3, this will return true. Then this button will appear inside the browser. Otherwise, this button will not rendered inside the browser. So that's it. Save this all and go to the browser. Click this button 3 times. And as you guys can see here, this time after the attempt 3, login button disappeared from the view and this login attempt warning message appeared inside the browser view. Awesome, right? So guys, this is how we deal with numbers in NGF directive. So in the previous lecture, we learned how to deal with number values in if directive using the old NGF directive. So in this lecture, let's see how to do this using the new syntax approach. So first write the if block. Wait, before that, for this also we'll define another button. So create a button tags and add the button text login syntax. Next, copy and paste the previous click event binding. No need to change anything. That's it. So next, after this, create the if block. Inside the condition, parentheses, add the condition. So this time we want to check whether this login count value is greater than number 3. So same like previous. So inside this block, add the message that we want to display inside the browser. So I will copy and paste the previous message. So at last, don't forget to remove the NGF directive from this h4 tags. That's it. So save this all and go to the browser. Now this time click on the second syntax button. As you guys can see here, after 3 attempts, we got the login attempt warning message. So this is coming from the if syntax block. So this was the same like previous. So if the login count variable value is greater than 3, this will return true. And if this return true, this if block will display this message inside the browser. Simple, right? Next, let's see how we can hide the button inside the view when user attempt more than 3 times to login. So how do we do that? Very simple. So create another if syntax block and set the condition same like previous. The login count variable is less than 3. So now inside this, cut and paste our second button. That's it. So save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this time the button disappeared from the browser and message appeared inside the browser after user attempts 3 times to log in. So guys, I'm not going to explain everything. This is very easy, same scenario like the previous. So only the difference here is the code block. Previously we used the NGF, now we are using the new way if syntax blocks. So that's it. So guys, this is how we deal with number values in Angular if blocks. Perfect. So guys, in the previous lecture, we learned how to deal with number values. Now in this lecture, let's see how we can do the conditions with string values. So guys, nothing much here. So for this also, let's look at an example. The example is, so when user logged in, I want to show a message based on a user role, like the previous example. But this time we will store the user roles inside of string variable, not like the previous Boolean values, right? So let's do this. First thing first, go to the app component is file and create a variable to store the user role. So create a variable something user role and set this type to string. At last, set a default value to this something admin. Next, let's work on the logic. So go to the app component HTML file. First, let's create the message. So create an h4 tags. The message is welcome admin. Next, let's add the condition. So inside this h4 tag, add the directive NGF. The condition is this time I want to show this message when the user role variable set as admin. So how do we check that? Very simple. For this we can use the equals operator, right? So pass the condition. Now first the variable user role. After this equals operator, which is this double equal sign. After this add the user role, which is admin. Pass this inside quotes. That's it. So we successfully write the condition. So guys, with this we are telling that if this user role variable is set to admin, display this message. Simple, right? So save this all and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this time we got this admin message here. If I change this variable value to something different, something member, save this and go to the browser. Now this message is not displaying inside the browser. Awesome. So guys, now what I want to do is I want to show another message when this user role value set to member. So how do we do that? For this we can write another NGF, but for this example as a good practice we'll do this using the else condition. So let's do this. For this, first thing first, we need a ng template. So down here create ng template. Inside this create the message which we want to show when the user role set as member. So create another h4 tags, set the message welcome member. Now at last don't forget to add an identifier to this ng template. So how do we add that? For this we'll use template variables. So create the template variable something member message. That's it. So next let's work on the else condition. So after this NGF condition, add a semicolon and add else. So after this else condition, call the ng template, which is this member message. That's it. So save this and go to the browser. Now this time we can see this member message inside the browser. So how this loaded inside the browser? Because this time this user role value set as member. Awesome, right? So guys, in this lecture, let's see how to deal with string values conditions using the new syntax approach. So nothing much here, very simple. So first create the if block and set the condition same as previous. I want to show a message when the user role set as admin. So how do we do that? For this also we'll use the past condition. The condition is user role equals admin. So pass this admin as string values inside quotes. So now inside this block, add the user admin message. So save this and go to the browser. Now we cannot see the message. Why is that? Because now this user role set as member. So in this case, the syntax condition return false. So in this case, the syntax condition return false. So this message will not render inside the browser. So if I change the role to admin, save this and go to the browser. Now we can see our admin message. Cool, right? So next guys, let's see how to show the member message. So how do we do that? Very simple. For this we can use another else if block. So after this, down here, add the else if block, set the condition. This time we want to check whether this user role value set as member or not. So the variable is user role. After this, equals operator, and the value is member. Pass this as a string value inside of quotes. So after this, inside this scope, add the message welcome member. That's it. So save this all and go to the browser. Now we can see the admin message. So back to the app component.ts file, change the user value to member. Save this and go to the browser. Now this loaded the member message inside the browser. Awesome, right? So guys, this is how we deal with string conditions in if directive. So guys, we successfully completed the NGF directive. Awesome job guys. Now before we move on to the next directive, let's dive deeper into the ng template. In the previous lecture, we used ng template, but I didn't explain much about it. So in this lecture, let's look at what is ng template and what we can do with it. So actually, what is this ng template? ng template is a powerful tool in Angular that allows us to define template content that can be used later in our application. Unlike regular HTML elements, ng templates itself will not render inside the DOM. We can use it when we need it. So guys, think of ng template as a container for a piece of template code that we want to keep hidden until we need it. It's especially useful when working with conditional rendering, as it allows us to define a template that will be displayed based on a certain conditions. So guys, this is what we did using the else condition. In previous lectures, when we deal with else conditions, we used this ng template, right? So if this return true, we show this message. If not, we show this ng template, right? So by default, this ng template's content will not load inside the browser. It will only load inside the browser when we call it from this else condition. Wait, I show you another example. Create ng template tags. Inside this add p tag and add this text. This content is inside ng template. So now save this and go to the browser. Inside the browser, we cannot see the ng template message. So guys, this is what I was trying to tell you. The content inside the ng template is not rendered in the DOM by default. It acts as a placeholder for the content that Angular can inject into the DOM when needed. So in order to render this ng template inside of the browser DOM, we have to use one of the Angular directives. So we can give an identifier to this using template variables, something dynamic template. Now inside this else, we'll call this dynamic template. So save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this time this loaded the ng template message inside the browser. Perfect, right? So guys, once again, ng template is a powerful feature in Angular that allows you to define template content that can be conditionally or dynamically rendered inside the browser. It's a great way to create reusable and flexible templates in your application. I hope this example helps you to understand how ng template works and how you can use it in your Angular projects. In the next lectures, we'll explore more advanced directives and features of Angular. So let's move on to the next lecture. So in the previous lecture, we learned that in order to render the ng template content inside of the browser, we have to use an Angular directive, right? But there is another approach for this, like the property binding approach. For this, we have another special property for this called ng template outlet. So let's see this in action. Guys, think that we want to load something call to action button inside of this component multiple times in different areas. Simply, how do we do that? In traditional way, we simply copy and paste that button code, right? But in Angular, we can do this more efficiently using the ng template. So let's see this in action. First thing first, create a button, something, join now. So now what I want to do is I want to load this button inside the sidebar area, footer area, and also in the hero section area. For this, we'll create 3 divs. The first one is for the sidebar. The second one is for the hero section. And the third one is for the footer. So in a traditional HTML website, we will simply copy and paste this button in these 3 places. Something like this. So this will load inside the browser as well. So guys, but as I said in Angular, we can do this using the ng template. So for this, first thing first, wrap this button inside of ng template tags. So after this, give an identifier to this ng template, something, call to action. So save this and go to the browser. Now we cannot see the button inside the browser. Why is that? Because the ng template content will not render inside the browser until we trigger or call it, right? So now inside these sections, divs, how do we load this ng template? In here, we do not need to use any Angular directives. So how do we do that? Very simple. For this, we have another property in Angular called ng template outlet. So inside the first div, add square brackets and add this property ng template outlet. So now from here, access the ng template, which is this call to action. As you guys can see here, we are getting a compile error, which is this ng template isn't known a property of div. So in order to fix this, we have to import that into the app component. So same like other imports. Inside this imports array, add the module name ng template outlet. Select this from this auto suggestions. This will add the import statement automatically. This is also coming from this Angular command module. Awesome. So now we don't have the error. So save this all and go to the browser. Now we can see the join now button inside the first div sidebar. So using the same approach, we can load the same button inside the other divs as well. So inside this again pass the same ng outlet template. Let's copy and paste this from the previous div. Save this and go to the browser. Now this loaded the join now button inside these all 3 sections. So guys, before end of this lecture, inside of this ng template area, we can define as much as templates we needed. For example, we can add a p tag here, something, call to action. So save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this loaded this p tag also in all of these sections. So guys, simply using the ng template, we can reuse a piece of template code again and again without repeating the same HTML code inside our browser. So guys, this is the use of ng template. So hope you guys all understand this. Alright, I think that's it for this lecture. So let's move on to the next one.